Alright, so I'm starting this video looking at my patio in front. It needs a little bit of rework. You can see some of the pavers have shifted. But this is a July 4th garden tour video. I haven't done one in a while. It's been over a year. And you'll see some things worked and some didn't. So I'll kind of go through and explain it. Over here, I have a pot of flowers that I planted. I started those from seed and they're doing well. And then I have a pot of petunias I purchased that died a week later. These are begonias. They're begonias that I purchased the corms and started from their corms in my seedling tent. So they're doing well. They're not blooming as much as I'd like, but they're really full and lush, so they're healthy. Kind of spinning around here, I have this planter. This is also all plants I started from seed, and they're not quite in bloom yet, but they will be. There's a lot of different beautiful plants in there. You can see that beautiful Dusty Miller. There's a dahlia in there. It's a border-sized dahlia, though, and then there's some other plants in there that hopefully will start blooming soon. Our weather was a little bit delayed here, as I think it was pretty much everywhere in the northern U.S. The front garden still needs to be redone. I'm planning on ripping out that ground cover. It blooms really beautifully in the spring, but after that the blooms go away and it just spreads, and it's actually kind of prickly to the touch. I planted a few annuals in there just for some color, and I've got some dahlias in the background. They're struggling a little bit. Planted those from tubers. You'll see dahlias throughout, but those are really struggling. The daylilies have been in there for a few years, and I just planted some annual petunias and some other plants around them. I've got one of these branching sunflowers that they're annuals here. They're pretty, but I gotta deadhead them a little bit. Another daylily, the hostas, of course, on the front border. Some plants that I picked up. Another dahlia I started from a tuber. Some more plants, a dahlia. Kind of just something to perk up the front a little bit until I have time to redo it next year. This soil has actually been in here for about 18 years, maybe 19, and it really needs to be dug up and refreshed. So amending the soil next year and kind of redoing this garden is a priority. But there was a lot of other things I worked on this year. The side garden, so this is the side of the house we don't really use. It's a small side of the house next to a neighbor, and what I do basically is any annuals that I start that I don't get into the regular gardens, which you'll see, I kind of just throw in here and see if they'll survive. Some of these were in their cell packs too long that I started them in. There's dahlia tubers towards the house, and then a variety of plants. There's basil, snapdragons, talinum, marigolds, just all kinds of things kind of mixed in here. Cosmos, a bunch of status here. It's what kind of looks like dandelions to me. Mahogany splendor hibiscus, the air conditioner, all important in this heat. And then just some extra dahlia tubers that I had. Coming over here, we're going into the raised garden beds. The first one is the largest. It's 6 by 12 feet, and in it I have celery, onions, leeks, and garlic. The garlic is almost ready to harvest. Then I also have the herb bed. The dill, which is massive, self-seeded from last year. Chives, cilantro, thyme, sage, basil, coriander. I have chamomile hidden in here somewhere, garlic chives. This large plant is it's self-seeded from last year. It's huge when it grows tall. I can't remember the name of it right now. Moving around. This bed and the next 4 beds are all 4 by 12 feet. This is, there's some dwarf tomatoes in here, and then mostly this side is pepper plants with sweet peppers being over here and primarily hot peppers being over here, jalapenos, heavy hots, etc. Just have some decorative planters in the back and hanging on the cattle panel. I hope I'm not moving too fast. We've pretty much narrowed down our favorite tomato plants. So you'll see that one half of this bed is black crims and the other half of the bed is pineapple tomatoes. Those are our favorites in this household, so that's what we grow the most of. In these beds, previously I did have my peppers, but on the outsides of the trellises I have all flowers now, and it's a mix. There's calendula, snapdragons, giant marigolds, just all kinds of flowers mixed in here. Going under the trellis, or coming into the trellis, there's nasturtiums. Those are flanked by blueberry plants. The blueberry plants had flowered, but they struggled after that with just our extended cool and wet weather. And on either side I have some annual flowers planted in planters. I have this I can't remember the name of it. It's doing okay. It hasn't really flowered since I bought it, but considering the other ones I planted died, it's okay. A couple of sweet peas. And then this is where I have my cucumbers trellising. So on one side I have my large cucumbers. And on the other side I have my pickling and snacking cucumbers. You can see how much taller they are. Eventually they'll take over the trellis completely. And then here I have some rare seeds or tomatoes. They're orange tomato, orange hat, and they're doing beautifully. They're a little weighed down right now from the rain. They're not supposed to need staking, but that one might. And some dahlias. Oh, it's clematis. I just remembered. So that's a clematis vine. And hopefully it'll flower again this year. It does have beautiful flowers that get on it in these beautiful purplish blue. It's just gorgeous. And another dahlia. And then that's a giant marigold. That's Baker Creek. More dahlias, snapdragons, heliotrope, calendula, my very first, even though sad looking, bells of Ireland. All just kind of mixed up. Another mahogany splendor hibiscus. This is actually a Amish paste tomato. I had an extra plant I didn't plant in my regular tomato bed, and I decided to put it in this planter. We'll see how it does. And then moving over here, last year this raised bed was a tomato bed. So there's calendula, there's actually basil in here, feverfew, just all kinds of different plants that were left over after I pulled out the ranunculus and the anemones. And then here I have my very first ever Lisianthus. They're super beautiful. Just gorgeous, amazing. These have been open for like a week, so they're kind of looking a little bit roughly. And we had some rain today. And then this, I had squash in, but I decided to make this a strawberry bed. I love strawberries. My family loves strawberries, so I thought what better way to use it. So I'll kind of back out now and show you the whole thing. And it really is, it just looks so lush right now and so beautiful. So coming around here, this is actually a neighbor's property. They let me use some of it. I kind of keep the weeds cut down. This trellis actually has blackberries over it. We have been able to harvest a ton of blackberries off it in the last few years. This is the third year for it, so we're really excited. And coming through here, we used some materials that were on this property, and I planted some liatris. Hopefully that will be in bloom soon. It's purple, so it'll have beautiful purple stalks. And then this is some Baby Cakes raspberries. They're thornless. This is actually their third year, so this is the first year we're actually getting raspberries off of it that are edible and that taste good. But looking forward to seeing more of those. The next part is actually my perennial shade garden. We had cut down a few small trees this year, so this isn't as much shade as it had been in the past. You can see some burning on the hostas, but it's mostly perennial, and then I plant in some annuals for color. So you'll see the ferns and the bleeding heart, the hostas, all of the just beautiful plants, and then I put some begonias in and just some other plants to give it some interest. There's lamb's ear. This is kind of been our shade garden in our bird area. They love it back here. Around the tree this year, I did plant a myriad of plants, but mostly I'm trying to turn this into a perennial garden. I have yarrow planted in there. Gomphrena is obviously not a perennial here, but some kind of mix of both perennial and annual beauty. You can see this yarrow I planted last year, and it's laying down because of the wet weather and it's heavy with blooms. But I'm hoping this kind of all fills in like a ferny, kind of beautiful and soft look around the tree eventually. It's my patio. I'll show you that in a minute. And then here, I planted, everything here was started from seeds or tubers, and a lot of it's not in bloom yet. So as I take you through this, all along the house are dahlia tubers. There's actually 42 in here, and they're all different. And then in front of it, everything else I planted, I started from seed. So there's cosmos, zinnias of different colors, talinum, gomphrena, feverfew, marigolds, more talinum. That bright green is what I'm talking about. Blue forget-me-nots, Chinese forget-me-nots. I actually have pink in here as well. They haven't bloomed yet. They're a little bit later. Just all kinds of things. Sapoglossus is here on the corner. Another color of gomphrena. A much larger feverfew plant. You can kind of see the dahlias poking up back there. And then just all the different zinnias, gomphrena. This is fireworks gomphrena. It's bloomed quite a bit ago, and I don't think that's focusing, but I'm going to cut those off and hopefully it'll branch and bloom again. So just a really pretty variety. There's a lot of different species of all the plants here, irregardless of what type I planted. If there's zinnias, there's giant zinnias, petite zinnias, cactus zinnias, and they're not all blooming right now, but they're quite beautiful. I'm on like my third year with this green stalk, and I always struggle. So on one side, no matter how much I water it, no matter what type of plants I research, one side just always burns. And I really don't have a better location for it, but I'll show you the other side, which is much prettier. Down here, I have petunias, some other plants, a lone dahlia, lots of portulaca, moss roses, some people call them. Another statice plant. This is something my daughter picked out, and it is beautiful when it's blooming. It just dropped a bloom, but it's got a lot of blooms on it, so I'll show pictures of this later. Here's another planter just kind of randomly sitting. And then I have in here on the side that looks good, celosia, petunias, marigolds, some tiny zinnias, a dahlia that's sort of hanging over, an annual vine. It looks like ivy, but it's not. And then this year is probably the worst year for my planters. Normally these look beautiful. I've got a marigold kind of hanging out of that one. There's echinacea in the purple one, a dahlia, salvia, Peruvian wallflower, 4 o'clocks. Just kind of a struggle year with the pots. I think it's because it went from cold to so hot. Things are dying, and then I'm also having digging by chipmunks. They're digging into everything. Worse than usual. I always have them, but they've been worse this year. A little dahlia, a tiny zinnia, a sunball craspedia. It's much shorter than it should be, but it's there. A dahlia. Again, these are snapdragons. A small feverfew down there. A giant marigold. Something that's dying. Couldn't tell you. Some marigolds, some status, our giant aloe plant, which we purchased. And then here along the side of the patio is where I keep my bins of celery, or not celery, I'm sorry, lettuce. So there's 3 kinds of lettuce planted. 2 are coming up wonderfully. I got them planted late, but 1 is not at all, so I think the seed was old. Even though you can't see it, there's 2 kinds. There's an Italian red and a regular bunching green onion. Those are actually starting to come up, but you can't see it in this video. Decided I wanted to try some carrots in a container. We'll see how that goes. We have a couple of seedlings, but they're really tiny. And then I've got some beans, green beans, but the chipmunk dug most of the seeds out. So of the, I don't know, 16 I planted, I have 2 plants. That's probably not going to quite do it. But just thought I'd kind of show you, what's going on here right now. July 4th. I don't have anything else to do. And there's a little break between the rains. So that's kind of my patio, my grill and smoker, my sink that I, wash my hands and clean veggies in. And just kind of a short tour. Shortish. Hopefully I have more to show you soon, and maybe I do a better job and stutter less. Anyway, happy 4th of July to everyone out there. I hope that you're having a safe and happy holiday. Bye.